Basketball fans here, there, a little bit of everywhere. Appreciate you guys all for chiming in with me and yet another episode of what we like to call the best, the most entertaining, the most informational, and the most educational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast. Of course, make sure that you go and subscribe anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. Also, feel free leave us a review. You can leave us up to maybe a 5-star rating. All ratings, of course, are embraced and welcomed. Of course, the 5-star ones are always really good to have more so than the others. And also, make sure you give us a follow on social media, all social media platforms at Tate's Take Hoops, TATESTAKEHOOPS. Unite, as you know, we like to call it where basketball lives. You always have a voice here on this platform. So feel free to engage, as you can see there below at the bottom on the ticker. Feel free to comment below if you got any questions, opinions, comments, concerns, suggestions, whatever the case may be. Feel free to chime in. So don't save it for the local bar. Don't save it for the local bar, for the local sports bar either. We talk it right here on this particular platform. Now, what I want to do, without further ado, because yes, I know a lot of people are like, dude, what's next? This is Tate's Take. I'm used to getting my good basketball takes and so forth. What's after the March Madness? We know that you're known for the March Madness and all that kind of stuff, but what's coming up after that? And so, of course, we got quite a bit of some AAU basketball stuff going on with the Celtics team Dickerson. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And also some NBA stuff. As you guys have known, that I've been a reporter for the Atlanta Hawks for somewhere right around 5 years or so, or a little bit more, give or take, on the timing. And I said, I'm going to bring in somebody that's overly knowledgeable, a person I had an opportunity to develop and establish a relationship with down there at what was Phillips Arena, now being State Farm Arena, who is currently, and I want to make sure that I can bring my dude up in here because I want to make sure we on point all across the board with everything. There goes my dude, Brandon Harper, podcast host and Atlanta Hawks reporter as well from 680 The Fan, based out of Atlanta. Make sure you give him a follow on all social media platforms, specifically on Twitter and on IG at bharper90. That is at BHARPER 90. B, what's up with you, bro? What's popping?
What's going on, bro? It's been a long time coming, man. I've been watching you on your platform for quite some time, man. I like what you got going on. So it's just an honor and a privilege to be on here and join you on your show.
No, man, no doubt. I appreciate you for just for supporting, for watching, for listening, prayers, everything, the whole nine, man. Because it's a very select few of us, as everybody knows here in Atlanta. You got this really tight knit group of people in terms of media, and we're all kind of in a roundabout way, kind of like family in our own ways. So definitely glad to have you on. Let's start out with this. I want to start out first things first because you're not only a reporter, but also you're also a host. I want you to talk a little bit about that as well. Co-host of this particular podcast, the Big Shot Bob podcast with Robert Ory. Talk to us and inform us a little bit about that and where the people can find it.
So we started this podcast with Big Shot Bob. Many people know him as Robert Ory. We started this early February. You can find it on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, wherever. Uh, it started, like I said, in early February. Myself, Robert, and also our engineer, who also works with me at 680 The Fan. And look, man, we have a lot of fun. We just don't talk basketball. We talk culture. We talk football. We talk a lot of stuff. But obviously, with Ori being a 7-time champ, being the king of rings, obviously basketball is the center of the most of the topics that we talk about. We've had numerous guests such as Muggsy Bogues. We've had Jeannie Buss a couple of weeks ago. So we pride ourselves on having good guests every week and amazing conversation. So if that's what you're looking for, come on and join us. We drop a show every Wednesday wherever you find your podcast.
That's super dope. That's the Big Shot Bob podcast with Robert Ory, of course. My dude Brandon co-hosting a lot of that stuff. Now take us over here. Let's just jump around just a tad bit. The Drop Step ATL podcast. Of course, you can find that every Monday and Wednesday wherever you find your favorite podcast. That's something that's of a different entity, I guess, than the Big Shot Bob. What's the difference, and what do you guys do on that particular podcast?
So the difference between that one is myself and three coworkers. we've started this, we've rebranded this maybe once or twice. It used to be called the Drop Step when we would just talk about anything around the association, but we wanted to kind of hone it more into Atlanta. We still go around the association, but we really wanted to really focus on the Atlanta Hawks, focus on the local brand. And so we changed the name and the brand to the Drop Step ATL. Like you said, we drop every Monday and Wednesday. It's just a lot of guys who appreciate and love Hawks basketball and just want to bring our own personality and flavor to the whole thing. Information is out there, but personality is not everywhere. So once you mix personality and information together, you have a good show, and that's what we want to bring twice a week.
Man, that's outstanding, man. My dude making big moves, big power moves out here, man. I'm loving it, dude. If you on that railroad track, my boy coming through and he's the train, he the conductor, you better move out. I just put it to you like this. You better move out the way. 'Cause my boy coming through, man. When he honking that thing going like this and that steam start coming up out of that thing, you better be on your way moving up out the way, man, because he coming through and making some real big things happen. I'm gonna throw something up here on the screen that's gonna seem like a lot of gibberish, and I'm gonna go through it relatively fast. I know some people are gonna say optically that looks terrible, but I want to inform the people who are diehard Hawks fans and so forth, even those on the outside that can maybe that was looking forward to some of this stuff. Where is the Atlanta Hawks right now? Atlanta Hawks 31-26 overall right now. That's over 50%. Hey, listen, when you're above 500 and you're the Atlanta Hawks, I don't care what part of time during the season it is, especially this late. That's always a good thing. Over 50%, 54% actually on a one-game winning streak. 8-2 in their last 10. Kind of surprising within itself. That's first within the Southeast Division. Tied for fourth with Boston in the Eastern Conference, and tied for 10th in the NBA. Now, in terms of scoring, 113th in points per game. That's second as well in the Southeast Division, sixth
Mm-hmm.
in the Eastern Conference, 13th in the NBA. Last but certainly not least, 111 opposing points per game. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about the defensive side of the ball now. Again, second in the Southeast Division, tied for seventh in the East. What of any of these things, if any of these things, Brandon, would you say kind of has stuck out kind of like a sore thumb, or maybe could be a little bit surprising to you to an extent? Maybe didn't know that they would be this far along or this far behind at this current juncture of the season when it comes to our Hawks.
One thing that I look at is obviously it's really a tie between obviously the offense and the defense. The points per game. Really, it's the points per game that really stand out. Why? Because this team has been battling injuries all season long, and when you have a lot of injuries to your main guys, well, that affects your scoring, just like it affects other aspects of your game. So when you have a DeAndre Hunter that's out, when you have a Cam Reddish that's out, when you have a Bogey that's just now come back and is really getting in the groove of things, when you have a John Collins that's been out just for a little bit and is just now getting back. The Hawks have been able to find scoring no matter who's on the floor, whether they win the game or not. They've been competitive and they've been able to score the basketball. So when you have that many guys out, you would think that your scoring will be drastically affected. Well, not necessarily so much, because the Hawks have had the luxury of having guys, you just get a Lou Will. What is Lou Will? A bucket. They call Lou Will a bucket for a reason. Why? Put him in the game. That's what he's going to go get you. Buckets. So Danilo Gallinari, he can go get you 20 points off the bench. He's done it all season long. So, I mean, you would think that, with all the injuries, that the scoring would take a drastic hit. And that's not necessarily the case.
I'm glad that you said that, and you talked a little bit about some of the injuries, and just want to tap in on some of the statuses that you may be aware of in terms of some of the guys that's been out. Because listen, I mean, one thing that you mentioned, I'm gonna touch on that first before I get to the injuries. You mentioned about them being competitive. I felt like coming into this year, them taking care of business, essentially for me, would be considered beating the teams that you're supposed to beat, that you're clearly better than. That's
Mm-hmm.
those, I don't know, probably like Wizards, I guess now, Rockets without Harden, Pistons, teams like that. And then beating the teams that you're either equally, as good as, or is as good
Mm-hmm.
as you are, a quality of teams, beat those teams, and at least be competitive against the teams
Mm-hmm.
that are slightly or much better than you are, and even maybe come away with stealing some some W's against those as well. Uh, so it seems like we're kind of on base for the most part, or
Mhm.
tapped in on the same level as far as that goes. Now talking about some of the injuries, this is a team that acquired players from free agency,
Mhm.
got players in draft. I feel like 6 or 7 at one point we're looking at, and you might have to help me out. Rondo, Gallinari, Bogdanovich,
Chris Dunn.
Chris Dunn.
Mhm.
Geez, who am I missing? Um, I feel
That
like I'm
sounds
missing
about
about 2 or 3 other players. But despite all of that, it's
right.
very rare that we had the opportunity to see all of these guys on the floor at the same time.
Mhm.
Where you could probably see this as like glass half full, glass half empty. When the
Mhm.
team is not playing so well, it's like automatically, oh well, we got injuries. The injury thing. You know what I'm saying? But then when you win in the games, it's like, look at us, and we got injuries. Now what?
Right.
How much emphasis are you really putting on what the Hawks have been able to accomplish or lack thereof because of the injuries?
Well, let's start with my mom always told me to start with love first. So let's start with love. Um, I like what they've been able to do in spite of their injuries, because there are a lot of these games when you even when you've had Trey sit out for just a couple of games, you're looking at, okay, Trey is out, DeAndre's out, Cam's out. Do we need to have tryouts? I mean, I'm
Mm-mm.
at the arena. I can go out on the floor and maybe give you 2 or 4
Hey,
points.
hey, give me a medium. If they got a medium, Garen, whoever, if they got a medium in the back, I can get to the cup and get to the charity stripe, the free space on the bingo card. Throw me and B Hart back there in the backcourt, bro.
Facts. I mean, because sometimes I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, who else do you have? I mean, because obviously you got guys coming off the bench to start, but then what does your bench look like? And each and every game, or at least for most of the games, I go in and I'm like, these guys are not just competitive, but they've taken leads and they've even won some of these games. And really, that's a testament to Coach McMillan. His teachings, his philosophies, them believing in him
Hmm.
motivating them, and them going out and really believing that they can not only just be competitive, regardless of what they have or what they don't have, but actually believing they can win this game. Now, on the flip side, I do think, fan bases all across the nation, you have, well, we're winning in spite of, and we don't even have this. But then when we lose, it's like you said, well, we don't have such and such. Well, when you're the Hawks and the status quo has been injuries most of the season, and you've been
Hmm.
competitive, you can't consistently lean on the fact of what you don't have when you haven't had all season. At some point in time, it comes down to, what, we got to fight with what we have. The best
Hmm.
ability is availability. And if we made it work in these number of games, well, we can't come over here and lose these games over here and then cry about what we don't have. There has to be some level of consistency, because if you're going to want teams around this league to take you seriously, everybody has to deal with injuries. Last time I checked, look out west. Lakers are dealing with injuries. The Nets are dealing with injuries, even in your own conference, and they have their own issues, but they still have to go out and perform and put up wins, or at least compete in those games. No one is going to feel sorry for you in this league. Yes, you have injuries. We understand that. That's every sport. And you know that there are certain guys that you want to get back because they allow this team to sway one way or another. But look at it like this: you want the guys that you have on that floor to go out there and give everything they have
Hmm.
and to compete. Why? Because they're men with pride as well. And they believe that they can go out here and compete with any and everybody. And those are the type of guys you want to have on your squad. And I think the Hawks have quite a few of
Since you used a mama reference, then I'm tie in what you said to a reference that mama also told me. She said, son, and this is me measure myself up against other people who got all these different long list of experience on their resumes and so forth. Excuse me, I might have spit a little bit, but that's just how passionate I get when we get to talking about basketball. But
them. Facts.
when mentioning, son, don't worry about the things that you don't have. Worry about the things that you do have and try to work on the things that you don't have in that process. There was a point
Right.
in time I feel like with this Hawks team and this organization and so forth, and I'm probably not even preaching to the choir here. I'm probably preaching to the pastor right now, where it kind of felt like the only thing that the only consistency that we saw from the Atlanta Hawks is that they were consistently inconsistent. That might
Consistent.
have
Yep.
been the that might have been like the only thing in
Hmm.
terms of your confidence level with where they are, with where they're going. What differences have you seen? Because it appears to a lot of people may have said, we might have, maybe last year we were a year too early. Most people,
Hmm.
especially national media and so forth, people had
Hmm.
high expectations last year. There was the John Collins 25 game thing. And if there wasn't this thing, there was the next thing. And maybe the pieces, or Trey is complaining about the pieces that he doesn't have. It needs more. And then it's kind of all over the place at that point. Injuries and Cam Reddish, blah, 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 dot, dot, dot.
Right.
What have you seen the significant difference in this year that has made all of the difference? Because you still had injuries, you still had guys that weren't playing and so forth. They went through their
Mhm.
highs, lows, struggles, so forth. What has been the biggest difference from a year ago up until now when it comes to this team, to where you may feel like where they are right now, I feel confident that they can take it to the next level, and these are the reasons why.
Well, one thing is obviously I'd be remiss if I don't acknowledge, like you said, the acquisitions. When you go out and get a Bogey, and you go out and get a Gallinari, and you go out and get a Lou Will, at the trade deadline, and also having another year under the belt of your young guys. Yeah, I know we still have questions about Cam. DeAndre has really taken a big leap before he got hurt, and we don't know
Hmm.
where he'll be when he gets back, if he comes back, because there's still no timetable somewhat for his return. Uh, but I also think, unfortunately, I loved Lloyd Pierce, I did, but it's hard to ignore what Nate McMillan has done with this team since he's taken over. So the
Hmm.
combination of your acquisitions, the fact that your younger guys are much more confident and much
Hmm.
have been much more aggressive this year when they've been on the floor,
Hmm.
uh, and the motivation and the push from one coach, Nate McMillan, I think a combination of all that, and you roll it all up, you look at where the Hawks now sitting in the number 4 spot, battling with Boston, battling with New York, and battling with Miami. It would be I literally thought coming into this season we would just be vying in for the play in. I would be happy with that, to be in that conversation. Oh, we're going somewhere between 7 and 10, and the fact that we got the play in, it works better for us because we can fall somewhere in that. Not one point in time did I ever think not only are we going to be battling for a playoff spot, top 5,
Hmm.
the Hawks. No, you must not the Atlanta Hawks.
Maybe the Seattle Seahawks or something.
Maybe. I mean, does somebody else? Is there another expansion team that I don't know anything about that's vying for a top 5 spot? Because most fans, I guarantee you, they probably didn't see this coming. And if they did, I need them to give me some lotto numbers or something that I can
Something,
play.
something,
Something.
something. Hey, if that's the case, I'm gonna have to start getting my life right together right about now before the man come back down here and grace us with his presence, because I didn't see this coming at all either. In the locker room right now, episode number 74 we are on now. Brandon Harper, podcast host and Atlanta Hawks reporter from 680 The Fan, based out of Atlanta Sports Talk Radio. That is, remember to give him a follow on social media at bharper90. That is at bharper90. Let's do this. You mentioned a couple of the players.
Hmm.
Crazy part is I think that we've seen some Kevin Herter growth.
Hmm.
He's been knocking down threes left and right and has a significant amount of. I'm not. I don't think it's attempts. I want to feel like it might be converted threes that is very close to Trey Young. I might have to check that stat again.
Hmm.
But obviously showing some growth. Um DeAndre Hunter, you talked about, prior to the beginning of the season, or since the season has started, prior to the injury, took not just a step, but like a huge step, not a baby step, but
Right.
like a big step. We haven't quite seen that exactly from Cam Reddish just yet. At one point in time, all three of these players there wasn't much separation between the three of them entering this year.
Mhm.
When I say Cam Reddish, take me through the brain, get the wheels turning of what happens in Brandon Harper's mind. When I mention Cam Reddish, what's needed, what's necessary, what do you see going? Because people ask me all the time, dude, what's up with Reddish? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't know, but we're going to get Brandon Harper on this thing on Monday, and we're going to talk about it because I want to ask him. We want to pick his brain. He down there every night, not every night, a night.
That's a
What
fact.
what are you seeing when Cam Reddish is on the floor, obviously, because right now it's an injury situation, but when he was playing, what exactly do you see when you see Cam Reddish? What's the issue?
So let me go back. Obviously, when he was at Duke, he was the third option between, amongst Zion and RJ Barrett. Most people forgot he was also a 5-star recruit, very talented. He even had moments at Duke, hit a game winner versus Florida State, was supposed to be the shooter amongst the ranks of those top flight recruits that went to Duke. I was one of maybe few people when he was taken 10th overall in that draft by the Hawks that was absolutely excited because I thought that we didn't, the world didn't see the real Cam Reddish when he was at Duke. They got little bits and pieces because he wasn't the focal point. But I thought when he get into the league, I thought he was really going to make some noise. And obviously his peers throughout the high school ranks thought the same thing as well when it came to his game. You talk to anybody like Anthony Edwards or anybody, the man is a beast. From his skill set, the way that he moves, there's not much that he can't do. Here's my issue with Cam Reddish. It's in here. Sometimes I think he overthinks. Where there are also moments where I think he throws it all caution to the wind. And with the ball, I've seen him attack the rim and I've seen him finish like we've never seen him finish before. And I'm like,
You can see that you can see in that moment that he's not thinking.
Right.
Which is a good thing for some people like him when he's not thinking.
Gotcha. Right. Now, most people, you want them to think about what they're doing. For some folks, overthinking is not the thing for you to do because you become passive, you stutter, you start to make mistakes. And that's what he does. And what I would notice is if he would get his shot block going to the basket or he would miss a shot, his body language running down the court wasn't the greatest. And that says a lot to me about a player. Are you going to run up and run back down the court with confidence, knowing that, I missed a shot, that's in the past, I'm going to get it next time go around? Or is it, man, I missed 3 shots in a row, it's going to affect me. Matter of fact, it's going to affect me on the defensive end. I just don't know. I get upset with him because he has flashed his talent a few times. Hasn't been pieced together, but it's been quite a few times where we've seen his talent. We're like, if we can only get this consistently, this is why we drafted him number 10. But if we can get this consistently mixed with what DeAndre can be, with what Trey is and what John is, the sky is the limit. But that's the issue with him. Now that he's injured, it's a setback for him because not only weren't you consistent when you're there, the injury doesn't bode well for the confidence of the fans of Atlanta. It just doesn't, because when you get back, we don't know what to expect because there wasn't much to build on in the first place.
And that makes perfect sense. Sometimes you do see the body language, and I've been the person that has accused Cam Reddish sometimes of playing too cute. Sometimes you got some guys that just are not too cute, but just too cool. Some people are just too cool. You run up and down the floor, cool. You shooting a jump shot. You got the gooseneck hanging up there. It's just cool. Everything is just twirling my twisties. Everything's just too cool. Sometimes it's just you're looking for that rugged.
Right.
And then in addition to that, obviously maybe not the most aggressive player necessarily, which isn't always a terrible thing. But when you need a person to be that, and you have the tools, you have the skill set. It reminds me, and people who listen to this program on a regular basis probably heard me say this a million times, but I'm gonna say it again. When he's coming out, he just reminds me so much of a player. I'll tell you what, I'll make this comparison all the time.
I know where you're going, and we may agree.
You know where I'm going, because we did it before. We did this before. I just always thought that he I just always felt like Rudy Gay could have been that Scottie Pippen-ish type of player. He's got the length, the athleticism, the scoring ability, the skill set, the size, all the measurements, wingspan, all the things that you like in that type of player, but he didn't want to be that. He didn't want to be Pippen-ish. He wanted to be Rudy Gay, and that's why you've seen him look the way that he has. Not a bad basketball player, not a terrible NBA, by no means. Made a lot of money in this league,
Right,
but he wanted to be that. I
right.
sense some similar things with Cam Reddish, where he wanted to be Cam Reddish and not
Mhm.
channel his inner Scotty. So I digress. I'll leave that there. We won't pick on Cam Reddish, but I would like to see Cam and all the best to him. Obviously, I'm not trying to poo-poo him. We just gonna get
Mhm.
on this program and do 110% like we always do. Nothing
Well, we
less,
got to
no
tell the
exceptions. My
truth.
dude with his always got. Oh, and won't do nothing different than that. Got my dude in here, Brandon Harper, man. Dude always got his hat to the back. Podcast host, Atlanta Hawks reporter from 680 The Fan. Let's get into this. Let me see what else I can pull out of my hat here as I'm trying to scroll through a little bit and perfect. Let's do this. I want to bring you into our special segment, okay? So we
Mhm.
do a particular segment here on the tail end of our show. It's called Quick Release. So essentially, it is rapid fire. Feel free to elaborate or to answer as quickly or as much as possible. Okay, so let's
Mhm.
start off with this as we get ready to start concluding. Here's the first one. When it comes to this Hawks team, from what you've seen from point A, game number one, all the way up until this point, what letter grade would you give the Atlanta Hawks this season?
I give the Hawks a B,
Why is that?
because I believe because of the injuries, how they've been able to not only just tread water and keep their nose above water, but put themselves right underneath the upper echelon of the teams in their conference. They're fighting for the fourth spot. And with the injuries, with the coaching change, sometimes those things don't always work out well for you. And it's been a pretty smooth transition for the Hawks with Nate McMillan.
Let's go with this. Here we go. Just what, 14, 15 more games left, I feel like, until we start talking about postseason. Don't want to rush it. Of course, there's a lot more games to be played. What area or areas of emphasis do you feel like the Atlanta Hawks should key in on as they start prepping for the postseason?
Cutting down on your turnovers. This team turns the ball over a lot. I don't like to. I love Trey Young. I'm not gonna poo-poo on him, but it's been many a times on Twitter where his father, even after a win, has said, "Stop turning the ball over. You need to,
Hmm.
as our point guard, you have to lead it. You have to be the general, but we don't need you to make silly turnovers." And that goes for everybody on the team. Cut down on these turnovers because in the playoffs they will kill you.
Yeah, shout out to Ray Young, good friend of mine, good friend of the program, and just an outstanding person all the way across the board, man. So shout out to Ray Young, Trey's father. Let's go here next. Right now, obviously, he's still the interim, holding the interim spot down for the Atlanta Hawks after the head coach was removed. How long until we start talking about this as the new coach, or should they consider looking elsewhere? Nate McMillan extension in 3-2-1. What says you? Are you giving him the job, or are you kind of looking, seeing what things may move around towards the tail end of the year? Maybe try and look elsewhere. What is Brandon Harper doing?
I think if I was them, I would offer him an extension and he would be my head coach. Now, do I think it'll happen? I'm leaning towards no.
Why?
Why? Because, and I could be wrong. Why? Keeping this in my mind and about the way the process went when they let go of Lloyd Pierce, but just that whole him having to think about stepping into the interim role, which was reported, talking to Lloyd Pierce, should I take this job? Obviously, Lloyd is a very good friend of his, and I know winning cures all, which they've been doing a lot of. I don't know what Nate McMillan's thought process is, if they've already offered him an extension or when they will, if they will. Obviously, you've heard names in the media about potential coaches they may look at, a Chauncey Billups, a Kenny Smith. new and younger coaches when it comes to the coaching ranks that you've heard. So I don't know where they're going with it. I would offer him a contract to be the official head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know if the Hawks will though.
Interesting. Interestingly enough, let's go. Let's bounce around here a little bit more. This is what it looks like in the Eastern Conference right now. Number one,
Hmm.
Philly, two, Nets, three, Milwaukee, four, Atlanta, of course. Number five, which I think they're actually tied for fourth at this point, the Boston
Hmm.
Celtics. Knicks at six, Heat at seven, Charlotte at eight, Indiana nine, and Toronto 10. Between maybe what sticks out as surprising for you this time of the year, is there any of these particular teams that you thought would be in the mix or wouldn't be this high in the mix or this low in the mix? And of these teams, what do you think? Which ones do you think are the most favorable for the Hawks in the event that they play them in the first round versus those that you feel like are not as favorable and would be bad matchups for the Hawks?
Well, first, to answer your first question, the surprise would probably outside of the Hawks, obviously, would be the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tom Thibodeau and his defensive intensity and bringing it to Madison Square Garden in the concrete jungle has worked wonders for that squad. R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle. I mean, Julius Randle is now in the star rankings. He is now making a stake for a star.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that those young guys have really come together and bought into, Tom Thibodeau's system is really surprising. I think they're a scorer away, though, from really being real contenders. But they're my surprise. I think at 4 and 5 is where the Hawks really want to be. Either one, because what you want to do is avoid, at least in the first round, one of those big three. You want to avoid Milwaukee, as we
Mm-hmm.
saw recently. I know, like I said, the Hawks have been hurt, but that Milwaukee game didn't turn out too well. We have to see
At
Milwaukee
all.
again.
National TV too, I think it was, and Milwaukee's
TNT,
going to be coming up soon. Yeah.
right? Obviously, if Brooklyn is fully healthy, hey, roll the ball out there. You got three of the most talented scorers in the league, probably NBA history. I don't think the Hawks want to in a best of seven. Hawks don't want to see that. And obviously, Philly, Ben Simmons could possibly be Defensive Player of the Year, MVP candidate, and Joel Embiid in the way uh, Coach Rivers has them playing. I don't think you want to see any of those three in the first round.
Okay.
Anybody else, whether it be Boston, could be a really good series. Knicks could be a really good series, but stay out of that dealing with the first three in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not even sure about Miami either.
Oh no, no,
The
no,
way
no, no,
that
no,
they
no,
get
no.
after it defensively, and people kind of overlooking them right now, and they just came off of the finals, and it's like, have y'all forgot about us mentality
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Wow, it's gonna make for some very interesting headlines in basketball all across the board. Let's jump over this one next. Clint Capella talking about some of his contribution. Has that been surprising to you, or has it been expected, according to Brandon Harper?
I don't want to use the word surprising because he was doing a lot of, being some sort of a double double machine when he was in Houston.
Hmm.
But I will say the way that he is fit into the city of Atlanta and the way that he is fit in on this team and the
Hmm.
effort, the intensity, and the toughness that he has brought to the center position and to opponents coming into that paint,
Hmm.
love it. You talking
Love it.
about 25 and 24 the other night?
Hmm.
Man, come on.
Hmm.
Come on. Stop playing with these folks. Stop playing with Clint Capella. He is not one of them. He is not somebody that you want to
Yeah.
see down low. And I think numerous centers throughout this league have gotten a taste of what he is. And he's going to be a force in the playoffs. Now, in the playoffs, where the game slows down and free throws mean a lot down
Yes.
the stretch,
Mm-hmm.
he's not a great free throw shooter. You're going to see more teams intentionally fouling and get him to that line. If he can consistently hit one of two, then you can make teams pay for using that little game and playing that little game. but he has to hit his free throws in the playoffs in order, for I think the Hawks to really get to that next level. But him running the floor, defense, love it all. Nothing to say about it.
Let's go with this one on the next one. What does John Collins' return mean for this team going forward? Not just only speaking on his return coming back from a recent injury, but there was so much up in the air as to whether he would be back. We still don't completely know until after the season, I guess, technically, if he's still going to be an Atlanta Hawk or not.
Mhm.
But just talk about the importance of his return from injury recently and the importance of him returning to this team so that they can put together this kind of stretch or this type of run down the stretch. We're hopefully trying to not only make the playoffs, but win a couple games and win a
Mhm.
couple more to try and advance or something like that.
Yeah, I think he's pivotal to the success of this team, not just for the playoffs this year, but if they choose to keep him for the future. Um, Having him with Trey, and obviously him working on his game coming into this year. The man is at one point in time was knocking down 40% from three. You can tell that he worked on that during the offseason, and what he does is he creates more room on the floor. He creates more room on the floor, and he forces teams to spread out. Also, him being able to put the ball on the floor and get to the basket. Those are
Hmm.
aspects of his game when you see a lot of fours in this league are really
Hmm.
working on putting the ball on the basket, shot faking and getting to the hoop. And he's
Hmm.
really worked on that, and I can see that he's continuing to work on that. So him adding to his offensive repertoire, him getting better on the defensive end. I don't think he's at his peak defensively yet. I think he could be a little better, but him getting better plus pairing that with his offensive repertoire, going through the roof. I think him being a restricted free agent, somebody has to make a qualifying offer, and the Hawks have to match it. Depending on what that number looks like this offseason, will determine the fate of the Hawks for quite some time because that's a piece that I don't think the Hawks can afford to lose. But if the number's not right, they just might.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, and I think that another reason behind them bringing him back um, after the season is over is really going to be based off of the John Collins that we're about to see, not the one only that we've already seen what he can do, which is already more than enough in my opinion.
Hmm.
But even more so, what he's getting ready to do, it's going to be like, well, first of all, not only are we glad that we kept him around um, before the trade deadline or after the trade deadline, but even more so after that, because if we didn't, we wouldn't have been able to see this. And if we didn't have
Right.
this, then we wouldn't feel that good about next year and where we could be over here. So that's just another one. Two last questions for you. The first one is I kind of want to find out as we look at what's coming up next for this team. Kind of want to find out from you where you think that they fare. Maybe 3-0, maybe 1-2, maybe 2-1, maybe 0-3. Hopefully not, keeping our fingers, toes, and eyes and everything else crossed. Tuesday versus Orlando at home, a team that's 14th in the East. Follow that up by in a back-to-back, second half of a back-to-back at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, who's sixth in the East, and then to kick it off, I guess because it's basketball and not football, on
Mhm.
Friday, that matchup against one of the better teams in not only the East but also within the division, the team that's second in the Southeast Division behind the Hawks, that being the Miami Heat, who's still kind of playing with a chip on their shoulder. I feel like, how do you think that they fare in those three games?
I really think at best they go 2-1. And the one loss, I believe, could come against it's between the Knicks and Miami. I don't think I have any problem with Orlando. That team is on a rebuild.
Mm.
I'm really, I really think, I think the loss could come Wednesday versus the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. I think they can get Miami, with it being at State Farm and them being at home. I think they could kind of creep up and take out Miami, even though that's going to be very tough as well. But I think
Mhm.
at best they can go 2-1. Going up there to the Garden and playing a young, scrappy
Mhm.
Knick team, which I mean the Hawks are scrappy as well, but the Knicks are on a roll right now.
Sure.
They're on a crazy roll right now, and they're playing with a lot of confidence. So I say at best 2-1. Now if they go 3-0, take everything I just said, ball it up, and throw it in the trash can. But I say 2-1.
Good deal. Very last one, man. This dude had an opportunity to come in, and it's his second time back home in ATL. Obviously, everybody knows that he's, from here, South Gwinnett High School and so forth. Lou Will. What has been your biggest takeaway? Because he's been obviously a part of that trade with Rajon Rondo. What has been your biggest takeaway from adding Lou Will to this roster?
Uh, I remember when we had his introduction press conference
Hmm.
when we was just traded and he was introduced to the media. One thing I really asked him was, what did you want to bring coming from LA, coming from those guys? What did you want to bring back home to this team here in Atlanta? And the thing that he said is, I want to bring obviously that level of toughness and also that belief that you can beat anybody. We believe when we were in LA out there that we could beat anybody. And this is
Right.
what I want to bring back to this young squad. And I think outside of his automatic scoring and him being a
Hmm.
bucket when he comes off the bench, I also think he's kind of mentoring these young guys and even Trey to letting him know, like, look, this is what needs to be done. We're in the run for the playoffs. The regular season is kind of over. You're in
Hmm.
playoff basketball now, even though you're not technically in playoff
Hmm.
basketball.
Hmm.
The world is looking at you. You're in the fourth spot. They're looking at us and they're trying to see if we are a contender or a pretender. Is it real or is it fool's gold? So I need you all, we need to buckle down and we really need to play like we're in the playoffs right now so we can prepare ourselves for the actual playoffs. So I think he's bringing that veteran presence, that leadership, and bringing that toughness and that belief that we don't care who we're going up against. We're going to give it our all and we're going to leave it all out on the floor.
You had any of them lemon pepper wings yet? Keep it real with me, bruh. Don't hold out on me, bruh. Have you had? I don't know who
Bruh,
watching, but you about to learn something about my boy Harp tonight. Have you had some of the wings yet?
I have said I will say somebody has brought me some of the wings. Yes,
Oh,
I
okay,
have.
okay. To go. See that's the easy way
Yeah,
out. Yeah, I got
yeah.
some wings, but I got them to go. I got the to go
Somebody was
portion.
so gracious enough to be a good friend and brought me some.
There you go. I ain't mad at that, man. Brandon Harper podcast host. Make sure that y'all go and check that out. That would be I want to make sure that I'm putting all of it out there correctly the way I should be. That would be the Big Shot Bob podcast. Find it anywhere you
Right,
find your favorite podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
right.
In addition to the Drop Step ATL podcast every Monday, every Wednesday. Find it anywhere that you find your favorite podcast. Atlanta Hawks reporter from 680 The Fan, Sports Talk Radio in Atlanta. You can find him there. And if you can't find him else, you can find this dude on social media, IG and Twitter. The handle is all the same at BHarper90. That is at BHARPER90. So, dude, B, appreciate. I know we probably ran over the time a little bit, but I do appreciate you for coming on to the program, kicking it with us in the locker room, episode 74 for a little while, and hopefully it won't be too long before I get a chance to see the homies in person again and chop it up and talk some good basketball and whatnot. And I'm looking forward to that more than anything. But I do appreciate you for contributing to the program.
Hey, Deshaun, bro, thank you for having me on, man. I see you hustling. I see your grind. I see you really promoting your brand. Everybody is not built to do what you do, but you make it look easy, and you have belief, and you have I know you've been building this for quite some time. And I remember sitting down with you in the arena when we allowed everybody in, talking about a lot of stuff. So to see from where it was then to where it is now, bro, I salute you. God bless and keep pushing, bro. And I'm rooting for you.
And let me get B Harper out of here before he make me cry, man. B Harper 90 at B Harper 90. I do appreciate you, big dog.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Likewise.
Absolutely. That's my dude, B Hart, man. That's the homie right there, Brandon Harper. Again, appreciate him. And I know one of the comments from earlier, my dude, controversy, Raphael Haynes. Make sure you go give him a follow. Got a super dope platform, super dope. Called 3 Point Conversion. Make sure that y'all go and check that out as well. I can vouch for that. Very good project and whatnot that he puts out there. Good material, good content, all the above. Check this out on Facebook. You know we stream live on Facebook, stream live on Facebook, stream live on YouTube, stream live on Twitch, as well as on Periscope. Said I said top five on my radio show. I wonder who he was talking about. I think I might have missed that one kind of late. I'm gonna have to tweet that one back out to see who he was talking about when he said top five on his radio show. I think he was talking about where the Hawks would end up finishing and going into the playoffs in terms of seeding and whatnot. But definitely appreciate him for chiming in with us as well, and just for all of you that do this consistently and persistently and share this stuff out as much as possible. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you for doing that. Keep sharing it. Don't save it for the local sports bar. Don't save it for the local barbershop. Go and subscribe. I always tell people, tell your mama, tell your grandmama, tell your baby mama where they can find the best, the most entertaining, most educational, and the most informational basketball content on the planet in the form of a podcast that's nowhere else outside of Tate's Take. Feel free to leave us a review. Those always meaning a big deal to us over here with this program, and also leave us up to a 5-star rating, if you will. So we appreciate that as well. And as we get ready to move around and move out a little bit, I'm gonna try and hit up Kristen Peak, see what Kristen got going on. Maybe she'll come on and talk about Chet Holmgren, the #1 player in the class of 2022, who just committed to Gonzaga earlier on today. Maybe try and hit her up and bring her on. Maybe Simon Hines or a couple other people on the AAU platform. Also, make sure that you do this because I'm doing some media training amongst different things with some kids on the AAU circuit, the grassroots level. Team Dickerson Celtics. Don't say that I did not tell you. Do not say I did not warn you. I'm trying to get you ahead of the curve and to be proactive a little bit versus being reactive. Team Dickerson Celtics. Look it up, follow. Great program, just a small independent program, but this is a huge program. And these eyeballs, I'm very careful about what the products that I put my eyeballs on. This one that I can vouch for, and I'm definitely stand by 110%. Guys, be safe out there. Remember to mask up. The COVID stuff is not over with yet. So just make sure that you're taking all the proper procedures and different things that need to be done to keep us safe. So when we come up out of this stuff, we can be able to connect once again and so forth. Appreciate it. At Tate's Take Hoops on the Twitter, as well as on IG. Hashtag where basketball lives. See you guys next time. Bye.